Today I will be showing you how to get started with Disney pin trading in the parks. In this video, we'll go over the types of pins to buy for the pin trading boards. We'll talk about where to buy those pins from, and then how to carry those pins throughout your Disney park day. We'll go over the different types of pin trading you will encounter during your day, and then we'll talk about the official Disney pin trading rules, which is super important because they did just update these rules for Disneyland a month ago. So we'll go over all of those details, and by the end of this video, you'll be ready to start pin trading in the parks. So let's get right to it. In order to start Disney pin trading, you of course need to have pins. So step one is to buy some pins. And that sounds easy enough. However, this can be a little bit complicated. If you walk into any Disney pin store, you're going to see every wall in the store filled with different types of pins. So which ones do you buy? Which ones do you need to do pin trading in the parks? For the pin trading boards in the parks, these boards are usually up by cash registers in the shops, but you can find them other places in the resorts. These types of boards are usually filled with pins from mystery pin collections, starter sets, and booster sets. So I recommend you start with those. So when you go into a pin store like this one, you're going to see a lot of single pins on the walls. They're usually on these white backer cards. These types of pins are rarely found on the pin trading boards in the parks. It's almost like they're just a little too good to be on the pin trading boards. They're great pins for you to collect, and maybe you can trade with other people, maybe at another pin event or something, but you're not going to want to buy these pins to trade on these pin boards. So the better place to go are the starter sets, for example. These are the ones that come with a pin lanyard, which you might need. We'll talk about that very soon. So you get a pin lanyard and usually 4 pins. So these work great because you get started off with the lanyard and pins. My one small problem with these, at least for me, I usually like all 4 pins. So I get the lanyard and 4 pins that I want to keep. So I still don't have anything to trade away. So then you might want to look at booster sets, which are very similar to starter sets, except they don't have the lanyard. They usually come with 4 to 6 pins. So you get a little bit more pins there. And a lot of times with these, I'll like maybe 4 of the pins, but 2 I don't really care for, which that would work great because then I have 4 for my collection and 2 I can trade away. And then the other way is mystery pin bags and boxes. Now this is my favorite. This is how I started out with Disney pin trading. And I like mystery pins for a few reasons. Number one, I love the mystery element to it, right? Opening up a box, you don't know what you're going to get, and then you get the 2 pins or 5 pins or whatever it is. I think that's a lot of fun. If you watch my channel, most of my videos are mystery pin unboxings. But the other thing I like about mystery pins is if you buy multiples of bags or boxes, you will probably get some doubles, right? So you might have a pin that you love, but then you have another one and they're duplicates. Well, then it's really easy to say, well, I'm going to keep one, and then this one I'm going to trade away. It doesn't matter if you don't like it or not. You already have one, so it's easy to trade away. So that's why I love mystery pin bags and boxes, but the starter sets and booster sets work great too. And all 3 of those are a perfect way to start Disney pin trading. Now let's talk about where to buy the pins from. The easiest thing to do is just to buy the pins when you arrive at the parks. That way you have a great selection to choose from, and you know all the pins you buy are going to be official Disney pins. So that is what I recommend. I know some people might be like me, and on your first park day, you don't really want to stop and buy pins. You want to like race around all the attractions. And if that's the case, you can just get your pins sometime during that first day, and then you'll be ready to trade the next day. If your arrival day is not your first park day, then this would work great. Let's say you arrive at 4 p.m. and your first park day is the next day. Well, then you can go get your pins at the pin trading store or World of Disney store at Downtown Disney in Disneyland or Disney Springs in Walt Disney World. So that way you get your pins, you can get some food, do some shopping, just enjoy the Disney ambiance on your arrival day, and you'll have your pins ready to trade on your first park day, which is the next day. So if you want to get your pins at your house and then bring them on your trip, you can do that too. It gets a little bit more challenging though. You can use what I would call Disney park personal shoppers or park pickup people. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook and other social media, and you just chat with them and you tell them what you would like to buy from the parks. They go to the parks, they buy the items, and then they ship them to you. So the hard part here is you need to tell them what you want them to buy. So you probably can't say, just get me some pens. You're gonna need to say, get me 2 boxes of these or 1 bag of those and 1 bag of these, and then they can pick them up and ship them to you. If you have a box lunch or a Hot Topic near your house, they sell Loungefly Disney pens, and Loungefly pens are officially licensed Disney pens, and according to the rules, they are tradable on the pin trading boards in the parks. However, some cast members might not like trading for the Loungefly pins. So you just have to be aware of that on a lot of pin trading boards, Loungefly pins are probably going to be fine, but you might encounter some where they're not. And the other place I can think of that you can get them before your trip is through pin sellers. So just like the personal shoppers, you can find them on Instagram, Facebook, other social media sites, and they'll be selling pins. Usually they post a picture of boards, like let's say this board of duck pins, and then they'll just have a price that says all ducks on this board, $12 or $15, and then you can pick which ones you want, and then they ship them to your house. So then you'll have them ready to go for your trip. But just know that there's always going to be some risk there. You don't know what shape these pins are in until you get them. So there is a risk involved with that. So you're probably wondering why I keep saying official Disney pins. And that brings us to a darker side of Disney pin trading, which is fake Disney pins. So counterfeit Disney pins. So just like you have a designer bag with a fake version of that, or you buy some Nike Air Jordan shoes and then you get them home and find out they're not the official ones made by Nike. So that is happening with Disney pins too. So the fake pins are basically lower quality pins made from cheaper materials. The designs usually aren't as detailed and the colors can be really off. But as with any fake product, they're cheap, and that's what keeps people coming back for more. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because if you are trying to get started in Disney pins, one of the things you're probably going to do is go on the internet and search for Disney trading pins or something like that. And you're going to get results that take you to sites like eBay and Amazon and other marketplace sites out there. And you're going to see listings that say things like Disney pin lot, pick your size, 10 to 50, no duplicates, and 100% tradable. And basically those words are everything you're looking for. You're gonna be like, yes, I found it. But the problem is these listings are 100% fake pins. So it doesn't matter what words they use or what the reviews say, they are fake pins. And one thing you can look at are the price per pin. So if you go to the parks, the cheapest pin you're probably going to find in the parks is probably around $9 to $10. And it's probably in one of those mystery pin bags that has the 5 pins. Right now, those are $45 each. So you divide that by 5 and you're under $10 per pin, $9 to $10 per pin. And that's the cheapest you're probably going to find in the parks. But on these auction sites, you're probably going to be able to get 50 pins that cost you 50 cents each. And there is no way anyone out there can afford to sell an official Disney pin for 50 cents. They couldn't make money that way. So they are fake pins. And so what has happened here is a lot of people buy the fake pins and then they bring them to the parks and then they trade them on the pin boards. And over time, the pin boards sometimes end up like 85, 90% fake pins. So if I'm in the parks and I see a pin board that looks like this one, I take a quick glance at that and I'm like, oh yeah, those are all fake. And it's not that I looked at each one. I just know that those pin designs have been faked for over 10 years. And those pin designs start showing up on every single pin board. So you just start to kind of tune them out and like, oh yeah, those are fake ones, fake ones, fake ones. And so that is what happens over time. So that's the dark side of Disney pins, and I could go into more details about that, but I just wanted to bring it up so you'd be aware of fake pins and maybe not buy the fake pins and bring them to the parks. But if you do want to learn more about fake pins, I do have a video that shows how to tell if a pin is real or fake, and it has some cool side-by-side examples which are super helpful. So you can go to my channel and find that pretty easily, or just click up here for more information on that. So now that you have a bunch of pins to trade, how are you going to carry them around the parks? So you do have a lot of options here, and the first option is the pin trading lanyard. These you get from starter sets, which come with usually 4 pins and a lanyard, or you can get the lanyards individually at pin trading stores. And the ones you get individually are usually a little bit better. They have more features, like this one opens and closes, and most of the individual ones are reversible. So this has a dark side or a light side, depending on which side you want facing out. And then most of them have some kind of clasp down here and have something hanging from it. A lot of times it's got like a big, I would call it a charm. It almost looks like a big pin, but it doesn't have a post on it. That's hanging there. This has a little resealable thing for passes, like if you're at a convention or something. And the pin trading lanyards, there's some pros and cons with them, and I feel like the cons outweigh the pros. So the pro that I can think of for lanyards is when you have your pins on your neck like this, a lot of people will see that you're trading pins. So when you're waiting in attraction lines, somebody might look and say, oh, nice pins. Ooh, would you like to see some of my pins? Would you like to trade? So you may end up with more pin trading opportunities with other guests when you wear the pin trading lanyard. But now the cons to a lanyard are all about the lack of protection for the pins. Your pins are just right here around your neck. And a couple of things that can happen are the pin backs sometimes don't fit super tight. So while you're walking around the parks, that pin back might fall off, and then the pin might fall off. And with all the sound from a Disney park, you might not hear that pin fall, and then you just lost a pin. The other thing that happens a lot is when this is filled up, it moves quite a bit when you lean over. So if you're leaning over a railing looking down in a pond or something, maybe you're seeing a family of ducks, and you lean over, the pins will swing forward and hit the railing, and then you might scrape up the pins that are at the bottom. And then the other problem that I found annoying with these is when you go on rides, you usually want to take them off and put them in a backpack. And then when you're done with the ride, you pull them out of the backpack, which could grab on the backpack zipper and scrape the pins even more. So I feel like the cons outweigh the pros for lanyards, so I stopped using pin trading lanyards. But I do have a lot of other options here for you. So we're going to go over to the table, and I'm going to go through all of these different pin trading carrier options for you, and maybe one of these will work out better. So here is one of the options you can get at the Disney parks. At least I got this one last summer in 2025. And this is a small pin case. I love the size of this pin case, and I like how it has the strap that you can put on your shoulder, or you can just remove the strap right here if you don't want the strap. This one came with this little Disneyland 25th anniversary of pin trading charm on the zipper. And when you open this one up, you have some pin pages. So we have a page that we can stick pins to here, and then you flip it and you have that side. And there are 3 total pages, so you have 6 different sides. And then there is a zipper pouch in the back for Mickey pin backs, or maybe card backs if you bought one that was on a card. So the one downside to this little bag is the way you're supposed to attach pins to it. So you don't just stick pins to it like that. You have to pull the little Velcro out here. So now it's it's the front page, and then you stick the pen through that page, and then you have to get your pen back on the pen like that, and then now it's on. But if you have a pin, like let's say if this guy had 2 pin posts, let's say he had a pin post down on his foot, and then you put him way down here, well, you're going to have to get the Mickey pin back and kind of balance it between some fingers, and then reach way down inside there and try to find the pin post to put it on. So I think you're going to end up getting a lot of pokes on your fingers. So there is a workaround for this though. There is a company called Go Pen Pro, and they make a lot of different products, and I'm going to show you a bunch of them here. But they make these pages. I think they call them like, I don't know, stick and go pages or something. And you just take your pen and the pen just goes right in. Easy as that. And that is super nice. And they make these a bunch of different sizes, which I'll show you. But what I've seen people do is, look at the size of this one. They fit one of these little boards. These are called the mini Penfolio boards. And you get them, they come in like packs of 5 for, I think, right around $15. You can fit this inside that pouch. And now you can take your pen without the pin back and just stick them right on there. And then you can load that one up, and then you can turn the page, and you can push the pen through this side too. But if you do that, just know that it's going through this top fabric, but then it's also going through this, this other nylon fabric. So some people might not want to do that. I don't think it's a big deal, but you might not want to do that. So what you could do, you could just use only 3 pages, but you could fit another one of these on this side. So then you have 2. The only thing I don't know is that ends up really thick. So if you put these pin boards in each page, could you even close this book? I'm guessing no. Let me actually try it. Okay, so I fit one of those little pin boards on each side. So I have 6 of those pin boards in here. So these are really thick now, but will this close? Look at how thick that is. I'm gonna say that's not going to close. And then you have to add pins to them too. So that's not going to work. So the only way you can do with this little workaround is you'd have to just do 1 in each. So I just removed 1 from each page. So now it's just one of those pin books or pin boards back here, and back here. So there's just 3, and that closes just fine. So you could do that. Then you just have to stick the pin through this nylon material, but then that becomes a handy little pin book. So they have a lot of different sizes of these pin boards. And the cool thing is you can buy these little pouches that match the size of the board. So then you can do some pin trading. You can throw your board inside this little pouch like that. And then it zips up. And then now you can have some pins on this side, and you can actually see them, which is nice. And then you just throw this in your bag. And then if somebody wants to trade, you can just take this out of your bag and they can actually see the pins. So if they don't want to trade any of these pins, then you don't even have to take the board out. But if they do, then you just unzip it and take the board out. So that is pretty cool. And you can have multiples of these, but this is the mini one. This one is kind of the mid-size one. So you can see it's next size up, and they do sell those pouches for this size too. And this would probably be a good size for Loungefly backpacks. So if you have a Loungefly backpack, they don't have a ton of room in them, but this would probably fit just fine. And then you have a lot of pins you can put on this side and this side. And then they have the bigger version, which this one's a lot bigger, and you can load this one up with pins on both sides. And they do make these pouches for this size too. So if you had a bigger backpack, maybe like a full-size backpack, you could just put pins on one of these pages, put it in this pouch, and then you do the same thing like this, where you just take this out of your backpack and then people can see both sides. And if they want one, you just unzip it, pull the board out, and then trade pins, and then put it back in your backpack. And then it's only taking one, the thickness of it is only, what, a ½ inch, if that. So then it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. So those are some good options that I've seen people use. So the other option I have here are these Pinfolio showcases. And this, I believe, is the classic size. And they do have one bigger than this. And then this is the mini size. But these are really nice because they have 2 pockets. You have the front section that you can see through. And then you can open it up with the zipper. And it has that same technology behind this felt. So you just push your pin on there. And then you open up the middle section here. And then now you have those same boards. You can see I've used this one quite a bit. Put your pins here, and then there is a divider to protect your pins. And then you have pins on that side too. And then the back has this a little elastic strap, and that's where I put some pin backs. So if you buy a pin and you want to put it in here, then you'll have a leftover pin back that you can put under that strap. And then this one is about double the size. So it has the front see-through area. You can fill that with pins, and then the inside, very similar, just double the size, but the little protective layer is clear, which is really nice because you open it like this and you can see all of the pins. And what I do when I go to Disneyland, I load up a bunch of pins in this bigger one. So I load it pretty much completely full with pins, but I also bring this one with me. And then when I get to the hotel, I'll take pins out of this one and load this one up. So then when I go to the parks, I'm only carrying this one. So it's a smaller bag. It's a lot lighter. One time I brought this in the parks, and after a full day of walking around the parks, this thing starts to weigh a lot, especially when it's all filled with pins. And I just found it to be a little too big. So I preferred to do my trading with this one. And then when I get back to the hotel, then I transfer any of the ones I want to keep into this one. And then I load more traders back up into this one for the next day. So those are the pin carrying options that I have here. You can always start with the lanyard and see how that goes. And then maybe if you don't like that, you can move to this pin book, or maybe these boards, or the Pinfolio shows. So I'm kind of liking the idea of these boards with the pouches. I like being able to load this up with pins and stick it in this pouch that you can see through. That's kind of a good idea. So I think I might try those on my next trip. I almost forgot the most high-tech solution for carrying your pins in the parks, and that is with a Ziploc bag. Yeah, you just open this up, and then you just throw your pins in there all nice and loose and seal it up, and then your pins just clang around and scrape against each other and get damaged. It's great. But seriously, no, don't put your pins in a Ziploc bag. Don't use this to carry your pins around in. They're going to get all messed up. And also, this is what most people carry their fake pins around with. So when cast members see you pull out a Ziploc bag full of pins, you're going to see a very disappointed look on their face because they know some fake pins are coming. So you have your pins and a way to carry them. So now you are ready to start pin trading. So there are a few different ways to pin trade in the parks. The most common way is with the pin trading boards that you'll find in most of the shops and some other locations in the parks. Usually it's a themed pin board up by the cash register. And if you find a pin that you like on one of those boards, you can trade one of yours for one of those pins. Sometimes the pin board is just out there by itself and you actually do the trade yourself. But most of the time there'll be a cast member there, and then you'll just have to ask them for the pin that you would like. So you can say, I'll trade you this Stitch pin for that Simba pin, and then they'll help you do the trade. Some cast members will have a hidden pin, and you can't see the hidden pin until you answer a Disney trivia question. So you answer the question correctly, then they'll show you the pin, and then you can trade one of yours for that pin if you would like. Another way you can trade pins in the parks is with other guests. So if you see someone with a pin lanyard, or maybe you saw them with a pin book, you can go up to them and say, hey, would you like to trade pins with me? If that sounds a bit intimidating to go to a stranger and ask them if they would like to trade pins, one trick you could do is go to one of the pin trading boards, and after you're done trading or looking at the pin board, you'll step aside and maybe there's someone behind you and then they look at the pin trading board. So then you know they're also pin trading. So when they're done looking at the board, then you can ask them, oh, would you like to see my pins? Would you like to see which pins I have? And then that's an easier way to kind of get that interaction started. Another way you can trade Disney pins in the parks is with shadow boxes. So they have shadow box frames that are filled with different Disney pins. And the only way you can trade for those pins is to go buy a similar type of pin at the pin store, and then you can trade those pins you just bought with the shadow box ones. So this works pretty good because it makes sure that the pins in the shadow boxes are official Disney pins, because that's how they start, and they only let you trade with ones you just bought. So they stay official Disney pins. And the other thing I like about shadow boxes is that if you're trying to complete a collection like this one back here, let's say I'm missing Mickey, I can buy a box of those pins and maybe I get Mickey and then I completed my collection. But if I don't get Mickey, maybe they have the Mickey pin in the shadow box. So then I can take those pins I just bought and the receipt over to the cast member at the shadow boxes and say, I'd like to trade this for the Mickey. They'll look at your receipt to make sure it meets the requirements, and then they'll cross it off so you can't use that receipt again, and then you do the pin trade. So you'll want to talk to the cast member and make sure you're following the rules, because they do change these rules from time to time. You used to have to buy the pins and open it in front of the cast member, but then they changed it to you just have to have the receipt, but sometimes it's the receipt from that day. I don't know if a receipt from yesterday will work, so you'll have to clear it with the cast member before you buy your pins and do that trade. Another way to pin trade is with what I would call the professional pin traders, who are set up in designated areas in the parks. Now at Disneyland, this used to be at the entrance to Frontierland, but in May of 2026, they converted that to a kids-only pin trading area. I don't know if that's a temporary thing for the summer or if that's a permanent change, but if you have kids that do pin trading, you should definitely check out that area and do some of the kid pin trading activities. If you're at Walt Disney World, the professional pin traders are at the Breezeway in Epcot. So if you go to the Breezeway, there will be pin traders with books and books and books of pins that you can trade with. One thing to know when dealing with professional pin traders, and really any guest, is that they are not Disney cast members. So your interaction with them is not controlled by Disney. So some of your interactions with the professional pin traders might be great. They'll know you're new, they'll show you some cool stuff, and you'll get some good pin trades with them, and you'll have a great interaction. But some of the other ones might know you're new and try to take advantage of you. Maybe you have a chase pin that you unboxed, and they'll try to get that from you and then give you a non-chase pin back. So then they'll come out on the good side of the pin trade. So you just have to kind of be aware of what you're stepping into there, because there's a few bad apples that can ruin things for everyone, unfortunately. Another thing you may encounter or hear is diamond for diamond. And what that's referring to is back in 2023, Disney started putting these diamond Mickey heads on the back of their pins as a way for you to quickly tell if it's an authentic Disney pin. So you may encounter a cast member who has a pin board or a pin lanyard, and they'll say it's diamond for diamond only, meaning all the pins they have this diamond Mickey head on it, so they'll only trade for other pins with the diamond Mickey head on it. Now, I have read that this is against the rules for cast members to do this, but maybe in the future they'll change that rule and we'll start having diamond for diamond pin boards and pin lanyards. You may also encounter guests that will only do diamond for diamond. I had that happen to me on my last trip when I was pin trading in the parks. I was trading with somebody and they would only trade for pins with that diamond Mickey head. Unfortunately, most of the pins I had in my little pin book during that day were from 2021 2022, so that was before they had the little diamond Mickey head. But I ended up having a few that they were able to trade with me. And if you are buying new official Disney pins in the parks and you're doing trading with those, then doing diamond for diamond is a good way to help protect you from fake pins. Now, they have, of course, faked the diamond Mickey head, but it's not on a ton of fake pins out there yet. Most of the fake pins you're going to see on the pin boards are older pins, and they're not going to have that diamond Mickey head. So if you do only do trades diamond for diamond, you're gonna probably get official Disney pins until the fake diamond Mickey head catches up and is on everything also. One thing I'm going to do in the future is I'm going to separate my diamond Mickey head pins on maybe one of the pages in my pin book. That way, if I'm trading with someone who wants to do diamond for diamond, I can just say, oh, these are all of my diamond Mickey head pins, and I don't have to like take them off and look at the back or anything. So that will save some time doing pin trading that way. So now let's go over the official rules for pin trading and pin etiquette. Disney does have official rules listed on their site. I'll put links down in the description, but basically you just go to the Disneyland or Walt Disney World website, and up at the top in the search box, you just type in pin trading, and then the results will either be pin trading or like an FAQ section that says what are the guidelines for pin trading. You just click that, and then you'll see all of the official pin trading rules. Only official Disney pins can be traded. So the main criteria on whether or not a pin is tradable is that it must have the Disney copyright logo on the back of the pin. And that's the little C in the circle that says Disney. So you need that on the back of the pin to be tradable. And any pin you buy in the parks will have that copyright Disney logo. But it's also on any officially licensed Disney pin. So Loungefly pins that we talked about earlier, they are officially licensed Disney pins, and they do have that copyright Disney logo on the back. So according to these rules, Loungefly pins are tradable in the parks. However, I've been seeing people talk about how they've encountered some cast members that they're thinking the copyright Disney rule means this logo, which is the Disney pin trading logo. And this logo is only found on the pins that are in the parks. So if a cast member thinks that that's what the copyright Disney logo means, this pin trading logo, then Loungefly pins don't have that. So then Loungefly pins would not be tradable on their pin boards. So one important thing to note on this rule, if you look at the last line, it says that a cast member has the sole discretion to determine whether or not a pin is tradable. So to put that in simpler terms, I view that as saying the cast member is in charge of their pin board or pin lanyard. So if they don't want to do a pin trade, they can say no. And if you do try to trade a pin with a cast member and they don't accept that trade, you can try a different pin. And if they don't accept that trade, it's best if you just move along. I mean, you don't need to argue with a cast member. You don't have to pull your phone out and pull the rules up and be like, it says right here that blah, 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 blah. I mean, I wouldn't let one little event ruin your entire day or entire trip. Just move along and keep it happy. For pin condition, pins should be in good, undamaged, and tradable condition. So that seems pretty simple to understand. So if you find a pin in the parking lot that's been run over by cars a few times, you're not going to be able to trade that pin on the pin boards. The next rule is trading maximum. So you can trade a maximum of 2 pins per cast member or pin board per day. So if you see a pin board and it has some pins you would like to trade for, you can trade one of your pins for one of them and then another pin for another one. And then that is your 2 trades on that pin board. So you are done with that pin board for today. So you can come back to that pin board tomorrow, but you are done for today. So that per day part of the rule may seem a bit strict. I thought it was a bit strict when I first saw it too, but there is a reason for this rule. So let's say that they put out a new pin board and it is filled with really good pins, like current official pins from current mystery pin collections that people are trying to collect. and it's sitting there, and then a person comes up to that pin board and then they see 2 pins they want. So they take the 2 pins they want, and then they take out their Ziploc bag with their fake pins, and then they trade those fake pins for the real pins. And then what they do is they get out of line, let someone else trade, then they get back in line, and then they take 2 more good pins and give them 2 fake pins. So they keep doing this, and after about 10 minutes, that board that was once filled with really good official pins is now filled with fake pins. So that is why the per day limit is in place. So the next rule is ask first, and this is more of a pin etiquette rule. So cast members will wear pin trading lanyards, and sometimes they'll have, I don't know what they're called, but it has a strap and then it has a like a pin board down here on their side. So you'll see cast members wearing one of those. And if you see a pin that you would like to trade for, kindly ask the cast member if you can pin trade with them or get a closer look at their pins. Don't just grab their arm or grab their shirt or grab their lanyard to see the pin. And if this rule is in place, you know people have done this. And one thing to remember is that the cast members that wear these pin trading lanyards, they're doing that by choice. They're choosing to wear these pin trading lanyards. And if a lot of people start pulling on the lanyard without asking them to see the pins, there's a good chance that cast member is just going to stop doing pin trading, and that will mean less pin trading for us in the parks. Disneyland has a few extra pin trading rules on their website that Walt Disney World doesn't have yet, maybe. And I think these rules are mostly in place because of those professional pin traders that I talked about earlier that used to be allowed in Frontierland at Disneyland. But while I think these rules are in place because of that situation, they're important to know because it now impacts all pin traders. So I'm going to read these 3 rules really quick, and then we'll talk about kind of what they mean. So the first one is pin trading locations. Trade pins anywhere in the Disneyland Resort using a lanyard and small handheld pin trading accessories. Okay. Limit the items you bring. Lanyards and small handheld pin trading accessories are allowed, subject to the Disneyland Resort rules, but no additional decorations or collateral, so lights, signs, displays, are permitted. No use of benches, chairs, or tables. So pins are not allowed to be displayed on benches, chairs, or tables. Benches and chairs are for seating purposes only. So combining those 3 rules together, what I think they are basically saying is that you can trade pins with anyone at the Disneyland Resort as long as your pins are on a pin lanyard or in a handheld pin bag. Also, while you are actively trading pins with another person, you need to be standing up. All right, that sounds a little weird, but that's basically what it's saying. So if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, are your pins for trade? You can't say, yes, let's go sit down on this bench and then you can look through my pin book. You can't do that. You have to be standing up. So all your pin books need to be smaller so you can do that while standing up. So this might sound a bit extreme, like why can't I just sit at a table and trade pins with somebody? And there's a reason why with all these rules. There's a reason why. And it's because at Disneyland, the pro pin traders that we've talked about a few times in this video, before they had that designated spot in Frontierland, there weren't really any rules for them. So what they would do is some of them would come in early in the morning, and then they would go to the benches in Frontierland and they would set up all of their pin trading books. So the entire bench would be pin trading books. Every bench in Frontierland would just be like the pin traders set up shop, and they would have all of these pin books. And regular guests couldn't sit down on those benches to rest. Sometimes if during the lunchtime when it got really busy, if you had food, no tables, you would go sit on the benches, but now you can't because pins are there. So this rule is in place to try to restrict that. So Disneyland is restricting where and how you pin trade so it doesn't kind of get out of hand like that situation earlier. And Walt Disney World doesn't have these rules yet, but if you are pin trading there, these rules are good to have in your mind, because there's a good chance that if these rules work well in Disneyland, that they'll put these rules in Walt Disney World also. So I know that was a lot of information, but you will now be able to get started with Disney pin trading. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's an extra little thing you can do on your trip. You go from ride to ride to ride, but then maybe you pass by a pin board and it's like, ooh, they have a pin I want, and you can do a little pin trading, and it's super fun. And that's how I started out. My family, we went on a Disneyland trip in 2014, and through part of the package, the Disneyland Travel Company or whoever it was gave us all a pin trading lanyard and one pin. I still have that pin. It's this Disneyland one up here. And we went into the parks with these empty lanyards, so we needed some pins. And the first pins we bought were the Mickey Expression mystery bags, and they still have those today. It's been forever and they still have them. I love that collection. And we bought some of those. We got some doubles, and then we started trading the doubles away. And then I found a few mystery pin collections that I wanted to collect all of them. So then bought some boxes of those, just throughout our trip, and then started trading those when I saw them. And it was super fun. And then at the end of our trip, we come home with our pin trading lanyards. And then a few years later, we went back and we brought our lanyards with us to continue pin trading. So it is a super fun activity to do when you're in the parks. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy your pin trading journey.